Welcome to weekly church school at Grace United Methodist Church, and the rest others of you that are not a part of this congregation, we welcome you as well. Dealing with a different question each week is really it's fun, and this week is a fun week for me because it's the question raised is dealing with an issue in the church that I've dealt with a great deal in my journey. And this is the question, quote, how do I know when it is time for me to move over and let youth move in? There are so many messages that I have experienced that could help others. Therefore, I'm not ready to step aside yet. Is that being too self-important? Because I really do like it when someone says they need my help. End of quote. Now, my response is welcome to the dilemma and opportunity of every person and every organization. And let's try to explore this in the context of a local church, any local church, including Grace United Methodist Church. I must start with an experience I had in Dallas. A friend of mine, Jerry Junkins, was the CEO of a multinational corporation, Texas Instruments. He's a United Methodist guy, and he was asked to speak at the School of Business at Southern Methodist University on the subject of leadership. And so I wanted to hear what Jerry said. And so I, with a lot of other people, attended. And we were all expecting a 30-minute presentation. And after about 5 minutes, Jerry had finished and sat down. He began, and in 5 minutes, he finished. He stated his experience of watching leaders who made a difference was very simply that the characteristic of leaders who made a difference is the art of passing the baton, as in a track and field relay race. A leader who makes a difference knows that their task is to build on what their predecessor has done, and in everything they do, they're building a foundation for their successor to build upon. Whether or not the baton is passed successfully from one person to another, from one generation to another, ultimately determines more than any other factor the ability of each leader to reach their potential. Now, when I heard Jerry Junkins, and I just marveled at his leadership skill, make that very succinct definition of leaders who made a difference, I thought of another story. For previous in my life, I'd had the privilege of working alongside Bob Timmons, one of the most successful track and field coaches in our country. Started out at Wichita West, went to Wichita East, and then Kansas University. I heard Bob several times working with a relay team, and he made these instructions. First of all, how you run your own leg. He said, do your best. Be spent at the end of your leg, leaving only enough energy to pass the baton on to the next runner. Now, you must run your race, be spent, having the energy to pass it on to the next runner in the leg of his or her relay, But then he addressed the person who was receiving the baton, not the person who was passing it, but the person who was receiving it. And he said, the secret to receiving the baton is not to start running as fast as you can. He said, if you run as fast as you can, you're going to run away from your predecessor who is spent at the end of his race. And you will either go beyond the limits of the rules of where you can pass the baton, or the baton will be dropped. And in either case, the team will lose. Do not run as fast as you can. Rather, run the pace that your predecessor is running. Run with that person stride by stride as if you're running alongside of them, and the team will reach their potential if you have practiced and accomplished the best way to pass the baton. Well, in the life of the church, I want us to think about what Jerry Jenkins and Bob Timmons taught me. Laypersons, pastors, and generations must learn the passing of the baton. I have witnessed the ministry and mission of congregations weakened and sometimes destroyed when laypersons, pastors, and generations fail to realize that building on what has been done before us we will be far more effective than starting from scratch. Believing that we have all the answers and acting like we have no need of the wisdom of our predecessors, therefore, they pay no heed of receiving the baton. They make two mistakes. They either think they're starting from scratch, or they refuse to receive the baton. And congregations are weakened and wrecked because those leaders have not mastered the art of passing the baton. On the other hand, I have witnessed the ministry and mission of congregations strengthened as laypersons, pastors, and generations build on what has been done before, ask questions of those who have gone before, and always having the attitude of building a foundation for that which is yet to come. Congregations, individuals, organizations who have mastered the art of passing the baton, both how you run your race, how you pass the baton, and how you receive it from your predecessor. You see, my response to the question is probably far too simple. For the sake of the congregation, do not move over for others to move in. Rather, master the art of passing the baton. Experienced leaders, give your messages, offer your understandings. New leaders, start slow enough, taking time to receive from those who have gone before. Run a few strides at the pace of those who are spent. For good leaders know no one starts from scratch. I want to leave you with a reflection on the story from the library we call the Bible. People say time and time again to me, Jesus didn't teach anything new. Every idea he had came from those prophets who went before, Isaiah, Hosea, Micah. Jesus received from those prophets the baton of the story of the strength of divine love. And in the Gospel according to John, the author continually insists Jesus' ministry was to pass that baton on to the disciples so that the revelation of agape love in human life would not be once and forever with Jesus, but once with Jesus and forever with his disciples. Not once and for all, so it would stop when he died, but once and forever, so it would continue with his disciples. Yep, you can trace it in Paul offering the baton to Timothy. And so often in the 2000 history of our community of faith, we discover, as we discover in 2022, the future strength of the congregation, the future strength of leadership depends on whether or not we've mastered the art of passing the baton. I hope it's been helpful to you to think of leadership in a little bit different way. But for your thought and our conversation, I would just leave you with a couple of questions. First of all, what are your personal experiences of receiving and passing the baton of leadership? And secondly, what are your experiences of persons in congregations starting too fast, starting from scratch, ignoring what has gone on before? Enjoy your thought, and we'll enjoy our conversation together.